everyone. Thank you for joining today. And my name is Sally Bament. I am Vice President of Marketing at Juniper Networks. And today we're going to talk about our latest generation of custom silicon innovations designed for the world's next generation networks. We're going to discuss Juniper's strategy focused on purpose-built silicon optimized for the very diverse and demanding challenges of different points in the network, and why that's needed now more than ever before. And we're also going to share some of the groundbreaking capabilities of the new silicon innovations, along with a series of new products that we're introducing in the market starting today. And joining me today to discuss this exciting topic is Brendan Gibbs, the leader of our automated WAN Solutions business. Brendan, always a pleasure, and thank you for joining.
Hey, Sally, thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Fantastic. And Brendan, we'll set a little bit of context for this discussion because it's quite exciting. We know that networks have become a vital business enabler, particularly in this highly connected global economy. You know, pretty much any relevant business process today is enabled by network technology in some way. And it's also where service provider revenues are minted. And as such, we in particular pay very close attention to any factors driving the evolution of the networks. And one thing we can say, particularly for service provider networks, is change is constant. We see the emergence of new services. We talk about AR, VR, IoT, smart cities, and of course, 5G deployments enabling new services, some of which we don't even know about yet. And of course, the pandemic also highlighted continued change and the need to plan for not just the known, but also the unknown. We also see continued exponential growth in traffic from digitalization, from cloudification, work from home, video growth, you name it. And that's driving increased speeds, increased throughput, and bandwidth demands across the entire network. And then thirdly, increased expectations from network subscribers, both in terms of a secure experience as well as a delightful service experience. And we know, service providers are making decisions today that have to carry them for the next 5, 10 plus years. So they have to place their bets, and the choices they're making now have to support whatever's coming their way in the future. So with that as the backdrop, let's kind of discuss how these trends are driving the evolution of both service provider and hyperscaler network architectures. And let me start, Brendan, by posing, this is a perfect storm, continued exponential growth of traffic, new services, security concerns, etc. How is that shaping the evolution of network architectures, and in particular, the core of the network and the provider multi-service edge?
Thanks, Sally. I really think those are vastly dissimilar requirements. And one of the strategies that Juniper has employed to target those is really to have the right tool for the job. Because I think what you'll see when you look at the core is that you have just a massive amount of bandwidth. Everything gets aggregated and transported through the core. And so sheer bandwidth is going to be paramount, but also bandwidth per power. So it's essentially the most efficient ratio of power utilization for the capacity offered. That's a critical component that customers really care about. And then you care about other things like being secure, having accurate telemetry counters, et cetera. But fundamentally, core is marked primarily by raw bandwidth, with the ability to kind of have things at rate, like max security at rate and counters at rate and security filters at rate, et cetera. In contrast, the edge is incredibly dynamic. As you said, there's really a huge growth in not only bandwidth, but also subscribers. Let's be honest, I'm working from home right now. It's expected that the work from home scenario is going to persist even when the pandemic is over. And let's hope that the pandemic is over pretty darn soon. There may be as much as a third of all workers that remain working from home on a permanent basis. So what this means is network traffic patterns and architectures are shifted almost permanently. They were abrupt at the beginning of the pandemic, and they're a permanent shift now. This means increased growth of broadband remote access, essentially consumer broadband internet, high-speed services with BNG, continued broadband service delivery for business services, because people are now going to need to access their enterprise public cloud, enterprise private workloads over VPN constructs, but from their home. So you now see a model where you need massive bandwidth to the home, tons of simultaneous subscribers, and convergence of services. You'll have essentially on one edge box, B&G for consumer broadband, business VPN for enterprise connectivity, and mobile backhaul, because people want the same experience over a 5G mobility construct as they also have at their home over wireline broadband. So the edge is really then marked by a significant multi-service aggregation point, and where the core is all about bandwidth and a few services at that bandwidth rate, the edge is marked by a massive growth of simultaneous logical scale for essentially a service construct for multiple simultaneous services, such as business and residential and mobile at the same time. And then service additions basically tacked onto that, such as for each logical service construct, you need to have massive scale for QoS and counters and security and tunnels, etc. So vastly dissimilar requirements, and that actually leads all the way down into the data plane, into the silicon engineering for what you might require for each, where you might need tons of memory with reasonably high bandwidth for the edge. You might need much less memory for the core, but really the cutting edge innovation on how much raw capacity you can drive through the chips. So, and it's essentially like, proverbially pushing in on a balloon. You push in on a balloon in one area and it pushes out in another area. You can't keep growing logical subscriber count and memory databases at the same time you're growing raw bandwidth. So you have to have a trade-off. You need to make compromises. And so that's why the network architecture demands dissimilar treatment. And that's why Juniper has offered multiple different silicon offerings to essentially react to those dissimilar requirements.
Makes total sense. And I'm glad you brought up the, silicon designs, because, to be honest with you, Brendan, we've seen quite a few network silicon announcements recently. And, if you were to believe those announcements, you would assume that a single silicon design is enough to meet these, uniquely diverging and challenging requirements of the core and edge. You've got Cisco with Silicon One, and you've got Nokia with FP5. If I was to ask you, what's your reaction? And if you can touch upon, obviously, the specifics with Juniper as well, but what's your reaction to these announcements?
Well, I'm reminded of a quote that's attributed to Henry Ford, which is, he said back in the day, you can have any color you want as long as it's black. And that's kind of how I feel some of the competitive offerings are, which is that they purport to address all the customer requirements, but only if it's black, only if it fits into what they've already offered, and it becomes a one-size-fits-all type of approach, or jack of all trades, so to speak. But we believe that fundamentally leads to being master of none. It fundamentally means that you try to have that one-size-fits-all approach, which means that you're not able to address more of the corner cases because you're trying to speak to the mass audience, and nobody gets served properly. So sorry, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, no, go ahead. I keep going.
Well, what I was gonna say is essentially what Juniper believes, again, as I said before, is to have a fundamentally optimized solution. And so we have taken the tack, which honestly is a little bit more expense for us, a little bit more effort for us, but we think it's better serving our customers, is to have a optimized solution for the edge, which is what we've delivered with our brand new Trio 6 chip, the 6th generation of our wildly successful Trio Edge optimized silicon. And we've elected to target core and peering roles with our Express 5 chip, the 5th generation of the Express line, really as part of our PTX routing portfolio. They have different characteristics, even though they're on the same 70 nanometer process geometry. They have wildly dissimilar scaling and performance parameters, which is really what you want for these type of roles. I don't see that being done as much from some of our competitors, and we'll see in the market. But I very firmly believe that customers are resonating with having an optimized solution for their mission-specific needs.
Yeah, I love it. And that's obviously a powerful combination to address the diverse requirements we just talked about. Express 5 and obviously the Express series is part of our PTX core routing portfolio, and then Trio, which, as you said, 6th generation for our MX series products. You know, Brendan, of course, the rubber really hits the road when vendors actually start shipping products instantiated with this custom silicon. So from a product perspective, when can our customers expect to see products based on either, you know, Express 5 or the new Trio 6 silicon?
So for Express 5 right now, it's a silicon only announcement. Products that will ship with Express 5 integrated with them will be at a future date. And the reason we opted to announce the silicon today is because our customers have such high growth of bandwidth requirement. They really wanted to have that comfort factor that they would make a bet on a platform and there would be a long-term trajectory for it. Not all of our competitors are as good at being out with rapid silicon or about investment protection as Juniper is. We're leading today with our PTX 10K in the 400 gig generation for core routing deployments. The Express 5 is really architected for leading in the 800 gig inflection point with 100 gig SerDes, 112 technically, but it's 100 gig SerDes type generation. And so we have a silicon only announcement really to tell our customers, we got you. We have perfect solutions with leadership deployments today already for 400 gig. And you'll have that comfort that you're protected for the future. Now, in contrast, Trio 6 is here now. It's already available. It's available now on a brand new line card for the MX10000 platform, which gives us the ability to scale from 1 gig all the way up to 400 gig with full investment protection and parity for years worth of MX classic features. We've also got a couple platforms that'll be available later this year, maybe around the middle of the year, which are, first of all, an MX10004 platform. That will be essentially a 4-slot chassis variant that supports all the same line cards, including the brand new Trio 6 base line card, just in a smaller form factor with 4 slots. And we've also got an MX304 platform. And that platform is really intended to be a small form factor system, very cute, but very high performance. Again, with all of the investment protection for the Trio feature set in a very space optimized, price optimized, and especially power optimized package with 70% power savings over the prior generation of Trio chip.
That's a lot, actually, a lot of products hitting the market. Very exciting, Brendan. Listen, you know, I just want to thank you, as always, for sharing your vision and also the details behind some of these new product capabilities. If I were to, you know, quickly recap, obviously, we believe in these uniquely diverse challenges. We've built specialized silicon from the ground up to support that. And at Juniper, just as we've done for the past 2 decades, we're delivering groundbreaking products that instantiate these new custom silicon innovations today. And this announcement, I think, really propels our leadership in the core and the multi-service edge. And as you said, with the right tool for the job, very much in contrast to other vendors with their compromised single silicon designs. So it's what we know, obviously, and what we know at Juniper. So listen, for all those listening in, I want to, first of all, thank everyone. Please visit juniper.net. If you go to our service provider or cloud operator solutions pages, you'll find a lot more information about what we talked about today. And I specifically want to thank you, Brendan. Thanks again. This has been fantastic. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Sally.